Guys, welcome to this week's masterclass. We're talking about a really powerful word today, and I mean powerful in a negative light, not in a positive light. And it's an F word. It's not the F word you're thinking, but it's an F word that is wrecking your progress. And it's the word failure, okay? Now, when you tell yourself you're a failure, I'm going to talk about why that's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than the actual event itself that's made you think that you're a failure, okay? That's what today we're talking, is everything we're talking about. And I really want to eradicate the word failure from everyone's vocabulary because it does not help in any way, shape, or form. So you've probably known this scene very, very well throughout the course of your life, right? You've had a brilliant fortnight with your training, your food's on point, you've slept well, everything's great. Then you have a bad Wednesday, everything's gone wrong, work's gone crazy, the kids are doing your head in, everything's not gone to plan, right? You might be feeling poorly, you might have got an injury, whatever. You've had a very quick tea, so you might have had, I don't know, some kind of beige tea, as I call it. Could be some chicken nuggets or something like that, right? You've had a packet of biscuits, you've had a couple of glasses of wine. Okay, that was Wednesday. It sucked, you had a bad day. But then the real damage comes after that, and it's what you tell yourself. And it's when you tell yourself you're such a failure because you did that. That is doing the damage, not the actual event itself, not the occasion, not what's happened that day. The fact you've told yourself you're a failure is what is doing the damage long term. And we're going to talk about why. So this is an event versus identity thing, okay? Now, eating the biscuits was an event. It happened 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. It lasted for about 4 minutes, okay? Saying I'm a failure is an identity. It doesn't stay in Wednesday. It doesn't stay in that day. It follows you around. It follows you into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the week after, the month after, okay? Now, events are editable. They can be changed. They can be reviewed. They can be adjusted. They can be fixed. An identity is self-fulfilling. It gets internalized. It gets lived out, and that gets repeated day after day, week after week, month after month. One is a data point. The other is a story you keep writing, and the more you write it, the more you believe that story, okay? So what your brain does with all of that, well, psychologists call it confirmation bias. Once you've labeled yourself a failure, your brain stops being a neutral observer. It starts to believe it. It becomes the prosecutor, it builds a case for it every single time. So every slip that you have becomes evidence that you're a failure because you're convincing yourself you are a failure. So if you skip the gym on a Tuesday, that's filed under proof, you're proving to yourself. If you had a second helping, it's filed under proof. The brain doesn't think in terms of evidence, it just stacks it, okay? It just stacks the evidence on top of each other. Every win that you have is getting dismissed. So say you trained for 4 days straight, you had 4 really good sessions, you just think to yourself, oh, it's easy, anyone could do it, If you lost a couple of pounds, you probably water, or it was luck, something like that. That identity filters out anything that contradicts it, okay? And your behavior follows the label. So you literally talk yourself into it. If you keep calling yourself a failure, then you talk yourself into really believing that is the case, but it's not factually true initially. You're convincing yourself it is, okay? Now, if you believe you're someone who fails, you stop fighting the urge to quit. You just quit because it's, why bother? Why bother doing the hard thing? Because I'm a failure, I'll fail anyway. You've already decided how the story ends. And this happens a lot with people. They decide how it ends before it's even begun. And I find that quite tragic. We need to figure out how to have more self-esteem, self-confidence, self-trust that we can do what we're setting out to do and not think you're a failure, okay? Hopefully all this is making sense so far. So the real cost with all of this, right? So the biscuits, what did it actually cost you? 300 calories probably, okay? The sentence that you said you're a failure, that's probably cost you a week. The rest of the week, 7 days, The biscuits were a blip. The sentence that you said that you were a failure, that sentence you said to yourself, that turned that blip into a bad week and that bad week into a bad month. And it also didn't feed your self-confidence in any way. It made you feel worse about yourself. That's how a one-off plan Wednesday can quietly become 4 weeks of drift. Not because of what you ate, but because of what you told yourself after it. It was never the food. It's what you tell yourself about that situation, about the event. It's how you internalize yourself after that event happens. So we've got the double standard here. I use this one a lot, and I will continue to use it a lot because it happens all the time. If your mate's had a rough day and say she falls off her plan, say she's had that Wednesday, your best friend, or he's had that Wednesday, your best pal, you know exactly what to say to them, right? You'd say to them, don't be daft. One day means nothing. You just go again tomorrow, get back on plan. You've been doing amazingly well so far, okay? That's what you'd say, isn't it? You know the truth clearer when it's someone else's truth, right? You just won't offer yourself the same deal. You're always being hard on yourself. Why does everyone you care about deserve grace except for you? And you are a very important person in your life, but we tend to dismiss everything that we do. We call ourselves failures. We don't give ourselves any credit. And again, I find that tragic. You would give that praise to your friend, or you'd give that reassurance to your friend, but you never give it to yourself. So I want you to start giving that to yourself. So we have one question, and this is the new rule. One question, that is it. So when a day goes a bit sideways, a bit skew-if, right, you're allowed exactly one question. And that question isn't, sorry, what's wrong with me? It's not a post-mortem, it's not a punishment, anything like that. The question you're going to ask yourself if things don't go to plan one day is, what's tomorrow going to look like instead? Okay? That's what I want you to ask yourself, because it's always about tomorrow. We can improve tomorrow. We can change things tomorrow, okay? That's the whole rule. Answer that question, then move on. Whenever the day goes a bit south, that's what we're going to do, okay? And how this works in practice, right? So Wednesday was rough. That is fine. You say it out loud. That wasn't what was meant to happen today. Never mind, okay? We draw a line under it. It's been and gone. You can't do anything about it. Stressing about it, there's absolutely nothing. Then you answer that question. So what does tomorrow look like instead? And you answer it and say, tomorrow I'm going to train at 7 a.m. I've got my meal sorted. Everything's planned out. You've got it in your schedule. Bosh. Okay, that is it. Not an apology, not a punishment. You close the tab on Wednesday and you open a fresh one for Thursday, right? Now, the people who make fantastic progress with their health and fitness and their well-being aren't the ones who never slip up. In fact, they do slip up quite often. They're just the ones who got a bit bored of all the drama of slipping up, and they don't let it get to them, and they don't let any slip up get in the way, and they just keep moving forward, right? So that's what we need to do. You don't let a slip up stop you. You're not a failure. You just think, what can I do tomorrow? We go again, okay? So the takeaway, right then. So this is the takeaway of all of this. Never miss twice. One of my famous mantras, never miss twice. One day off is normal. You're a human being. It will happen. 2 in a row is when it starts to become a bit more of a choice. If you have 2 days in a row that you didn't show up, that is more of a choice. Obviously excluding when you go on holiday, etc., because that's a different situation. But if you're in control of things, you've got to show up after a day that wasn't perfect, okay? Always prioritize showing up the next day. Never call yourself a failure for missing once. This is, without sounding morbid, you get roughly 4,000 weeks alive, okay? On average, if we're lucky, 4,000 weeks, right? Don't spend a single one of them punishing yourself over a bad Wednesday. That Wednesday's been and gone. You move on. Next day, you're fine. You're back on it. You get 4 or 5 good days in a row again. You might have another kind of slip up on a Wednesday after that. You just make sure the next one, you go again, 4 or 5 days in a row. The Sunday might not be great. Get back on it. You go again. Progress is the pattern, not the day, all right? Consistency over months beats perfection over hours. The story isn't over because you had a slow Wednesday, okay? Again, very, very important we understand this, because this can change everything for you. So it's just about going again. The week isn't ruined because one day didn't go to plan. You're not a failure. Stop calling yourself a failure. You just had a shit Wednesday. You draw a line under it. You deal with it. You move on to Thursday. And Thursday is going to be sensational, okay? So hopefully that has made a lot of sense. If you've got any questions about this, drop me a message, all right? Very important you open up about this kind of stuff, because that internal dialogue is what holds a hell of a lot of people back. So have a good one. Let me know if you need me, and I'll speak to you really soon.